The Kent State Golden Flashes take on the Miami Redhawks, and that's going to be a 12 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Yager Stadium in Miami, Ohio. Kent State's the 3-point favorite on the road, total 67 and a hook. We're 5-0 in our last 5 daily best plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. And access to today's daily best play costs just $1.99. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to explain a little bit more about it in just a few moments. We're also 4-1 in our last 5 extra daily picks on that site as well. And access to the extra daily pick, today's extra daily pick, costs just $2.99. Now, we currently have over 775 members signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, Kent State has won 3 out of their last 4 ball games. 50 points a game they're scoring during that stretch. Dustin Crum has thrown for nearly 1,200 yards, along with a dozen touchdown passes. His favorite target's been Isaiah McCoy, who has 25 grabs for 455 and 5 touchdowns. Isaiah is averaging over 18 yards a catch and 114 yards a game receiving. Now, the Golden Flashes have also scored 13 times on the ground, and they average over 600 yards of total offense per game. Meanwhile, defensively, as bad as they've looked in their past couple of ball games, there's still a couple bright spots here for Kent State, and one of them is this. The Golden Flashes are allowing less than 165 yards passing per contest. Now, Keyshawn Gamble and Brandon Coleman each have 3 sacks thus far in the season, pretty consistent in that pass rush. Now, they're taking on a Miami squad who's allowing 27 points per contest and nearly 270 yards passing per game. Now, total-wise, the Redhawks are 1-0 to the over at home this season. Meanwhile, Kent State on the other side is 2-0 to the over when they travel, 3-1 to the over for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Kent State Golden Flashes -3 in the over 67.5 in that contest. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take another quick time out and welcome you to the video. Got some lines of personal leans out for college football week 14, and of course, this is our MAC conference edition. And I said last week, if it's not being played on Tuesday or Wednesday night, can it really be considered MACtion? But I guess so, because we had some pretty good games this past week on Saturday. But anyway, before we dive into some more free content right here on YouTube, just got to quickly remind you once again, we're 5-0 in our last 5 daily best plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. And once again, if you want to access today's daily best play, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. We also won 4 out of our last 5 extra daily picks on that site as well. And access to today's extra daily pick is only going to cost you just $2.99. Now, you might be wondering, why would you sign up for picks on Patreon and pay for them, where you can just get them for free right here on YouTube? And that's certainly a great thought, a great consideration. If I were you in your position watching me on YouTube, I'd probably be thinking the same thing as well. But hear me out. If you were to go out there and bet every single game that's on the board side in total, like I do with my breakdowns here on YouTube, it's certainly not a winning formula for success. You just can't go out there betting every single game that's available. If you end up doing that, it's certainly a recipe for disaster. The books are way too smart. They're way too sharp with the numbers. The odds become massively more against you. And to be honest with you, the bookies just have so much more money than you and I do combined to be able to absorb that type of action. So what I do on Patreon is I break it down and focus in on just 3 to 4 premium selections per day. They're my personal plays, games that I personally have action on. And I'll tell you this much, I'm having a whole lot more success betting games that way versus firing darts on every single game on the slate side in total. Having a lot more success, betting in a little bit smaller sample size. Now, if you're interested in signing up, we currently have over 775 members signed up and active on that site. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, I strongly recommend it. I would love to have you. And the link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And moving on, we're going to take a look at some more action here. Not sure if our next game is on the board behind me. It's actually not. But anyway, we're going to break down Toledo, Northern Illinois, 12 p.m. Eastern start time at Husky Stadium. Now, the Toledo Rockets are minus 10 on the road with the total at 59.5. The Rockets are scoring over 36 points a game, and they're throwing for 315 yards per contest. Eli Peters has thrown for over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. Wideouts Isaiah Winstead and Bryce Mitchell have combined for nearly 500 receiving yards already in 5 scores. Meanwhile, running back Bryant Koback has rushed for 334 yards and 3 scores. This Toledo offense is averaging nearly 600 yards of total offense per contest. Now they're taking on an NIU squad who allows 38 points a game and nearly 185 yards a game on the ground. NIU's 0-4 straight up on the season. They're winless thus far in the year, and they failed to cover the point spread in both of their home games. Now, total-wise, the Huskies' lone over on the season did come at home. Meanwhile, the Toledo Rockets are 2-0 to the over when they travel this season. I'm going to lean toward the Toledo Rockets minus 10 and the over 59.5 in that contest. All right, next matchup. It's another game that's not on our big screen behind me, but it's going to be pretty much the toilet bowl. I'm talking about Bowling Green versus Akron, 2 p.m. Eastern start time, battle of the winless teams. Now, the Akron Zips are the 3-point favorite at home, totals 56.5. And like I said, the Zips are winless in 4 games this season, just 1-3 against the spread in those contests. Akron is scoring just 16 points per contest, and they throw for less than $1.60 per game. Their leading receivers averaging just 43 yards receiving per contest, and he scored just once. Meanwhile, defensively, the Zips are giving up over 47 points per contest and 225 yards a game on the ground. Now they're taking on a Bowling Green program who successfully covered the number against a very strong Buffalo team only a few weeks ago. Bowling Green's rushing for nearly 200 yards a game on the ground. Running back Terrion Stewart is averaging 9 yards a carry, and he scored 4 rushing touchdowns. Bowling Green's leading tackler on the defensive side is Darren Anders, who has 47 total tackles along with a fumble recovery and a forced fumble. Now, total-wise, BG saw 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Akron stay under the line. Meanwhile, 2 out of the Zips' last 3 ball games stayed under the number themselves. We're going to lean toward an underdog in this one. Give me the underdog Bowling Green Falcons plus 3 and the under 56.5 in that ball game. All right, next matchup. It is another one that's not on our board, but it is going to be Eastern Michigan versus Western Michigan, 2 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Waldo Stadium. The Western Michigan Broncos are minus 13.5, total 66 and a hook. Western Michigan is 4-0 straight up on the season, 3-1 against the spread in those ball games. The Broncos are scoring nearly 46 points per contest and gaining over 460 yards a game in total offense. Quarterback Caleb Ellaby has thrown for over 1,100 yards and a dozen touchdown passes. His favorite target's been wideout Dwayne Eskridge, who has 21 catches for 591 yards and 6 touchdowns. Eskridge is averaging a staggering 28 yards a catch. Actually, he's averaging over 28 yards a catch, as well as 148 yards a game receiving. Meanwhile, defensively, this Western Michigan pass rush has gotten to the quarterback 14 times. Defensive lineman Ralph Holley leads the D with a trio of sacks on the season. They're taking on a winless Eastern Michigan program who failed to cover the number in their last 2 straight. The Eagles are rushing for less than 100 yards a game offensively, which is almost impossible in college football. Almost all of these college football teams rush for over 100 a game. Meanwhile, defensively, Eastern Michigan is allowing over 35 points per contest and over 255 yards a game on the ground. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Eastern Michigan's last 3 got over the posted number. Meanwhile, the Western Michigan Broncos are 75% to the over for the season. Give me the Western Michigan Broncos minus 13.5 and the over 66 and a hook in that contest. All right, next matchup, it is going to be the Buffalo Bulls versus the Ohio Bobcats, 3:30 p.m. Eastern start time. The Bulls are minus 11.5 with the total at 57. Buffalo's undefeated in 4 contests this season, 3-1 against the spread in those ball games. The Bulls are scoring 51 points per contest and they're rushing for 325 yards a game. Jared Patterson has rushed for 920 yards in just 4 ball games, 16 total touchdowns for Patterson on the ground, 8.6 yards per carry. The junior running back is averaging 230 yards rushing per contest. Now, the Bulls have also scored 21 rushing touchdowns thus far in the season collectively. Meanwhile, defensively, the Bulls are led by James Patterson, who has 37 total tackles and a forced fumble. The Bulls defense has 8 sacks on the year, along with 8 takeaways. Now, they're taking on an Ohio program who's failed to cover the number in 2 out of their last 3. Failures to cover against the likes of Central Michigan and Akron. Ohio is throwing for less than 150 yards per contest. Curtis Rourke has thrown for just 386 yards in 3 ball games, just 3 touchdown passes. The Bobcats' top wideout, Isaiah Cox, is averaging just 47 yards receiving per contest, and he scored only once. And as good as this Ohio defense has looked against the likes of winless Bowling Green and Akron, they gave up 30 to Central Michigan, and they allow nearly 200 yards a game on the ground, and that is not a formula for success against a run-heavy Buffalo squad. Now, total-wise, 2 out of the Bobcats' last 3 ball games got over the posted total. Meanwhile, Buffalo's 2-0 to the over in their last couple of games themselves. 3-1 to the over for the entire season. Give me the Buffalo Bulls minus 11.5 and the over 57. All right, next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Ball State, Central Michigan. Excuse me, and that is going to be not on our big screen, but that's going to be a 5:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Kelly Short Stadium. The Central Michigan Chippewas are minus 1.5 at home, with the total at 61 and a hook. Now, Central Michigan gave up 52 points in their loss to Western Michigan just a few weeks ago. This Chippewa defense is giving up 28 points per contest and nearly 290 yards a game through the air. Now, they're taking on a Ball State program who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves, and they're coming fresh off a nice win over the high-powered Toledo Rockets. The Cardinals are scoring 32 points per contest and rushing for nearly 205 yards per game. Running back Caleb Huntley has 437 rushing yards on the season and 6 scores. He's averaging nearly 6 yards a carry and 109 yards on the ground per game. Quarterback Drew Plitt also has thrown for nearly 1,100 yards himself. Wideouts Justin Hall and Johannes Taylor have they've combined for almost 700 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. Now, total-wise, Ball State saw their opening 2 contests of the 2020 season get over the posted number. Meanwhile, Central Michigan is currently 2-0 to the over on their home field. We're going to finish with an underdog here. Give me the underdog Ball State Cardinals plus 1.5 and the over 61 and a hook in that game. And with that, we're going to dive into our quick pick recap, once again brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. I like Kent State minus 3 over 67.5. The Toledo Rockets minus 10 over 59 and a hook. I like the Bowling Green Falcons plus 3 under 56.5. I also like Western Michigan minus 13.5 over 66 and a hook. I'm leaning toward the Buffalo Bulls minus 11.5 over 57. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Ball State Cardinals plus 1.5 and the over 61 and a hook in that game. And with that, we're going to dive into some shout-outs, once again brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. Shout out to Seven Swans, No Face OJ, Bubba Jonesy, Print Name Here, Lucrative Nature, J Mobile Cool Sorry. Shout out to Xyloid Plastic, Nurse Iscali, Sports Lover 2K, 2K, and S. Campbell Toronto. And finally, from our YouTube platform, shout out to Darius McNeil, CQP Underboss, Pit Gentleman PA. Shout out to the Mac, Bertrand Tech Montreal, Brian Gudillo, Kevin Taylor, Roger Tawari, Oliver Bryant, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to P Just Ice. Or is that P Justice? I don't know. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind we'll bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.